Given that Amazon's Rings of Power is now in full flow, let's make good use of our time to talk about something that's actually, well, good. Like the film series that is responsible for the show's very existence. Now, I already gave a brief preamble, let's say, to how important these movies are to me in my last video. And on top of that, I made a compelling case as to why I think that from a filmmaking standpoint at least, The Fellowship of the Ring is the best of the entire trilogy. So I highly recommend you check out my previous video as well. But before we move on, according to my analytics, over 96% of you watching are not subscribed to me, so please.
Stupid fat hobbits!
I mean, fellow viewers, if you enjoy the content, please do not hesitate to like, share and subscribe. Oh, I can't believe I've done that. And I know that in my last video I spoke about not being sure about whether I was gonna bother watching Rings of Power or not, and I guess curiosity got the best of me. I just saw how extreme and hilarious the backlash was, and I thought, surely it can't be that bad. But after the first 2 episodes, which are the only ones I've seen so far, oh my god, this is like beyond abysmal. The Hobbit trilogy is looking like a pot of gold compared to this. Because at this rate, this series could be even worse than the f***ing Star Wars sequel trilogy. Oh my god. Kenobi, for example, Kenobi, right? It was horrible, but at least it had, that emotional ending scene with Vader and Obi-Wan. And to be honest, even the Halo show started a little better than this. Oh my, this is too much. Let's get on with the actual video, shall we? So like I said in my previous video, The Fellowship of the Ring, in terms of filmmaking, is the best one for me. The one that, when you put all the elements together, it makes for the hardest movie of the 3 to make. So once December 2001 came around, the cast and crew of these films scored the biggest win of them all, to hook a global audience. Because according to Box Office Mojo, it made just shy of $900 million at the box office. Those numbers back then were mental. To put this into perspective, Mission Impossible 2 made less than $550 million in 2000 a year earlier, and it was the biggest movie of the year, by the way. Only 3 movies had ever made more money back then. Star Wars Episode 1 cracked over $1 billion in 1999, obviously Titanic in 97, and Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, funnily enough, which came out just a month prior. And you all already know what I think of The Fellowship of the Ring. It had to lay the groundwork, while Return of the King had the humongous task of providing an epic finale worthy of the trilogy itself, which I will get to in my next video of course. But what's up with the first sequel? Now as a kid, The Two Towers was my second favourite because it had more action than the first one. And logically, since the third one is even more epic and had even more action, that was my actual favourite. So once again, where does this leave The Two Towers? Well, if you ask me, I think this one had to, first of all, like all sequels do, raise the stakes. And it does that masterfully. As I explained in my previous video, this one was the first one that had to really put its groundbreaking special effects to good use. That's why we are now finally properly introduced to Gollum, who is one of the most important characters in the story. And let's not even start with the Battle of Helm's Deep and how amazing that still looks. And the crew's efforts paid off because it will always be regarded as one of the greatest army battle scenes ever put to screen. A battle scene that took 4 months to shoot. You can shoot an entire film doing that. That's roughly around 16 weeks of night shoots and 120 days of sleepless nights just for one battle scene. Well, actually at the end they fight during the day, but you know what I mean. But I think in general terms, the greatest achievement that this film has going for it was not just raising the stakes, but keeping up with source material that became more and more crammed with action, just like the films themselves. And you might be thinking, well, yeah, more action makes for an easier going experience for the audience. Which is true, but if the character development does not keep up with the incredibly high standards set by the previous film, then the movie could have potentially fell flat and audiences would have lost interest. The Empire Strikes Back sure has more action and better choreographed lightsaber duels, but if it wasn't for the fantastic introduction of Yoda, and especially the brilliant character development of Luke and Vader, then their fight could have been just as good, but far less memorable. In fact, let's say it's Star Wars for a minute. Look at Attack of the Clones for example. It had those incredible set pieces that start with the arena and the monsters, the dozens of Jedi fighting droids, the arrival of the clones, the army battle scenes in Geonosis, Obi-Wan and Anakin versus Dooku, then Yoda versus Dooku. I mean, holy shit, this is so entertaining. But before any of that, we got over an hour and a half of dialogue like this.
I don't like sand. It's coarse and rough and irritating, and it gets everywhere.
And this.
And not just the men, but the women. And the children too.
Poor Hayden Christensen, man, he didn't write those scenes. That was George Lucas and some Jonathan Hales. And that's exactly why writing will always make or break a story. That's why Alfred Hitchcock said that to make a great film, you need three things: the script, and the script. And The Two Towers has a plot that is constantly being pushed forward. We see what Aragorn, Legolas and Gimli are up to, what Merry and Pippin are up to, what Frodo and Sam are up to. Then Gandalf comes back from the dead, which was probably quite the shock for a large chunk of the audience back in 2002. And let's not forget that this film introduces characters such as Treebeard, Eowyn, Faramir, Theoden, which, by the way, everyone talks about that incredible orc makeup, but look at that ugly possessed motherfucker. The makeup on possessed Theoden is also incredible. Even Elmer gets such a great little character arc. And Billy Butcher is barely in the fucking movie.
Well. That ain't the invisible cunt.
Come on, even Grima Wormtongue is a good character. And let's not even get into Gollum, because we will be here all day. If you count the minutes of screen time of Eowyn, Elmer, Treebeard, Faramir, etc., they all have great character arcs. We know that Eowyn likes Aragorn and that she wants to fight, as both conflicts carry on to the next film. We know that Treebeard has no interest in the war, until he does. We know that Elmer wants to fight for his homeland and for his people, but he's wrongly banished until he finally comes back. Meanwhile, this guy just wants a chance for Faramir, Captain of Gondor, to show his quality. And ultimately lets Frodo go. Gollum also turns from bad to good and then back to bad, and the story justifies all of these changes. And I haven't even mentioned the conflict with Arwen, as she hangs on to hope that Aragorn will return. I mean, holy shit, this is expert level writing on a fucking fantasy movie. And I'm even forgetting all about Saruman. In fact, all of these characters I just mentioned have but a fraction of the screen time of this new young Galadriel, and they all range from 10 to 100 times the character that she is. And The Two Towers does all of this while continuing Aragorn's, Gandalf's, Frodo's, Sam's, Merry's, Pippin's, Legolas story. Okay, maybe not Legolas. Gimli's stories. Just wow. So this second film had the task of following and continuing all of these characters' stories effectively, while expanding Tolkien's world, but also having to fit in way more action scenes than before. And you know what? Maybe Return of the King does this even better. In fact, it probably does, and you guys already know my feelings regarding the Fellowship of the Ring. But none of that takes absolutely nothing away from this movie's brilliance. It made around $50 million more at the box office than its predecessor, and it actually beat out The Chamber of Secrets this time. It beat out Spider-Man as well, and Attack of the Clones. And in doing so, it became the biggest movie of that year, and it was well deserved. And instead of ending on a Balrog tangent again, let me conclude by convincing you of this. If anyone tells you who they think is the best performance in The Lord of the Rings, and they don't say Andy Serkis as Gollum, please do yourself a favor and slap them in the face for me, because Andy Serkis through these films catapulted the use of motion capture to turn it into what it is today. Because Gollum steals every single scene he's in, and despite putting 3 unbelievable performances together as Gollum and Caesar in Planet of the Apes, while as Gollum it was technically 4, Andy Serkis continues to almost never get the recognition he undoubtedly deserves. He's played King Kong, Baloo, even goddamn Snoke brilliantly well. But since you never see his performance, that deserved recognition rarely follows him. And there have been plenty of other great motion capture characters since, but let's be honest, it's been 20 years and we are still yet to see any of such characters surpass Gollum. Motion capture is such an underrated medium for storytelling, and I'm probably going to make a video on it and Andy Serkis at some point in the future. It's been a pleasure seeing you guys stick around until the end once more. If you enjoyed that video, please do drop it a like, subscribe, hit the bell so you don't miss any content. And drop me a comment on top of that like on the video too. What are the Two Towers' greatest strengths in your opinion? Maybe I left some stuff out, because I want to hear from you. Of course, keep your eyes open for my video focusing more on Return of the King coming soon, and who knows, I might actually end up making a video on the Rings of Power just to take the piss out of it, because this series is turning into a literal comedy for me so far. Or who knows, it might even get good, but I seriously doubt it. And without further ado, this is all I've got for now, and I hope to see you guys around here very often. So for now, this is me, signing off.
You don't have any friends. Nobody likes you.